Hello again, everybody. It's been a little bit since I got to work on the car. My last weekend was my birthday weekend and a bunch of different plans between family and girlfriend and friends. So I didn't really get in the garage too much. I did try to get the power steering lines tightened up and fixed to fix the leak. And I don't remember where I left off with that with you guys, but it turns out I couldn't get the pressure side, the bottom one, tight enough. And it looks like it actually stripped the threads, I guess, with taking out the old steel fittings that I had to pull out. And it must have taken the threads with it, because it won't get tight no matter how much I give it. I mean, it's the right fittings, it's for the swap. So I have another rack coming. He's bringing one, I think, within the next day or two, so I can get that taken care of. I got the transmission leak fixed. It was just a loose coupler. And right now, I'm working on getting some wiring done. So I made a loom for the fans and the cooler, oil cooler. And right now I'm just pulling wires, and they're gonna poke through the firewall. And I'm trying to hide them really nice I'm wrapping it up in some tape, hockey tape. I took off work yesterday and today, and gonna try and get some stuff done here yet tonight. But yesterday, my dad and I went down to Cecil County Dragway for Hot Rod Drag Week 2019. Saw a bunch of cool stuff, met a lot of people, like the Benny's Custom Works guys and Alan, all them. So I will insert some clips now of the footage I took there yesterday.
Class face on. So she has her most Kingswood. They say Chevrolet Kingswood was your finest, most refined version. Chevrolet, ask me that. Give me a pleasure to have you here. Come see us up here in Echo. So it's now time for Mike Finning, a long anticipated run here as Mike got into the hotel at 4:30 this morning. He's been in here all day trying to fix the electrical issue, and it's not beyond electrical, it's got into the brains of the operation. Well, the brains of the operation is like the jump starter wrong. So then that's just what's the thing. I hope they can keep up light. Do it on.
So there's a few of the clips I got. I was actually so excited to see everybody and everything that I didn't really take a lot of time to focus on trying to film everything. I figured there's professional people there doing it. 1320 Video was walking around. So I was just there to enjoy the moment. I took clips as I felt like it, but I didn't really stress taking a lot of clips of everything. I did get some pictures and stuff too. It would have been neat to meet Freiberger and Finnegan, and Tony Angelo was there. Freiberger was up in the booth announcing, as he does every time. Finnegan and Tony Angelo were shooting an episode of Roadkill, and no one was really getting close. I didn't want to bother them. That's the thing. I don't want to. All those guys are there for a purpose and busy and working on stuff, so I don't want to walk up and bother them and, you know, just to take away time and say hey. But it would have been neat to meet those guys. I also wanted to see Blasphemy up close, but again, it was under the tent. They were working on it. I didn't want to get close. No one was really getting close. I think it was people were to stay back. But so that was that. And the next time it comes over to the East Coast, I definitely want to do the event. Definitely want to do the event. It looks like a whole lot of fun. And just the people, the atmosphere, everyone's there for the same cause. You help each other out, you go, you run, and it looks like an all-around good time. So now back to this thing. I've now got my fishing rod or my harpoon attached with some tape. We're going to do the old stab it through the firewall technique that you've seen in the last video or so. I've got it all done up here, and here's a little branch off. This is going to pick up battery post power. So one of these is, and I know it should be red, but you know what? I didn't have any 10 gauge red wire. So one of these is going to run to the fan relay right here. That's constant power. There's going to be constant ground. Wire going to the fans, and then this blue wire is accessory switch 12 volt that'll kick the relay to supply the battery post positive. And the red wire is the oil cooler. I'm going to put on a fuse panel inside. I got to pick up there's a fuse panel on the way from Amazon, so I can fuse everything. I also have a whole bunch of relays with mounting tabs coming. So now I'm going to fish this through all these wires and down through the firewall here. That way all the wiring's in the car, and then as soon as the fuse panel gets here, I'm ready to wire it. I do have to also do the fuel pump, since the ECU isn't in the car anymore. It's carbureted, and the ECU is what was telling the fuel pump to turn on. So I need to plug into the white and pink wire, or the pink and black stripe wire that goes to the tank. That'll get keyed 12 volts. And then MSD needs fused. The fans I'm going to put the fans up here on a relay, and then I'm going to fuse the oil cooler on a 20 amp or something. Maybe 15. So that's that. I'm going to start fishing and trying to poke through and find a spot that I can get through inside and pull all the wires through and probably call it a night for tonight. And then tomorrow when the fuse panel gets here, I'll get back to work on it. So I'll have another clip here for you shortly. I believe the last section of video was getting the wiring harness made up and getting it into the car. I did go ahead and finish getting that all done. So it comes over here. There's two that come up here and pick up the main battery post, and that is for direct relay power to the fans that pull a lot of current, and a 10 gauge power to supply the car. I put a fuse panel in here. I'll show you. And I just came over and went through this grommet right here. So that's that, and then I'll show you the power panel. I ended up putting the power or the fuse panel over here on the passenger side. I couldn't find a really good spot to put it on the driver's side, and I wanted it out of the way but still accessible in case you needed to check them, obviously, and if there's any problems or if you want to add stuff. So I put it down here and I tucked it up right here. This is a 10 slot panel with a cover, and I still need to label everything so he knows what it is. Let's see if I can move the light so you can see it without getting a glare directly on it. Probably not. But here is how I have it. So there is a main power wire coming in, and that is coming over here to this fuse or relay, 30-40 amp relay that I mounted right here off of this heater bolt box, this thing hanging. So the constant wire comes in, and then there's ground. The trigger wire that comes over is from the red and green wire. I think it's pin 3 off of the ignition plug over there. I tap that to get power, 12 volts while in the run position and while cranking. So then that comes over here, and that acts as my trigger wire in the main power relay that I have here. And then the accessory wire, yellow, kicks over and actually turns into red, and that's what supplies the 12 volts directly to the bottom to power the board here. So everything on this fuse block is 12 volts while cranking and in the run position. So I have the blue wire here is the trans cooler. The bottom red wire is the what's bottom red wire? Bottom red wire is the power or the trigger wire. I'm sorry, blue is for the radiator fans. This light is being a pain. Blue is for radiator fans, bottom red one is for oil cooler fan, top red one is for the MSD, and the purple wire I spliced into the factory Ford harness that's over here under the seat, and then that is fuel pump, key on fuel pump, since ECU is not controlling it. So that's that, and then the blue wire I actually have running over to the other side, and I'll show you in a second to get a better light. Okay, so down under here is where I mounted a switch for the fans. Right here, this blue one. So it's the old flip up, turn on, but it won't unless we have keyed power. So that I mounted right there off the hood release. It shouldn't hang too low, and I can actually cut this tab off. That's a ground that doesn't have to have a ground to switch what we need to switch. So I can put the rest of the panels back up here. So that's all the wiring taken care of out here. And then in the engine bay yet, added a relay, specific relay. So the trigger wire comes off of the fuse panel and comes out and acts as my trigger wire. I mounted a relay right here, and then this is another 30-40 amp relay, and then this is supplying power when switched to the fans. So that way we have relayed master power, we have relayed fan power, everything else is on a key and fused appropriately, and these fans actually kick out a ton of air. So now we'll show you how it works. So now we're in the car, and I'm going to key on. You can hear the fuel pump kicks on, the oil cooler for the trans kicks on, and then if I flip up the switch down here for these fans, you can hear they turn on, and then everything works. Key off power as everything should. So that's working great, and you can hear that the throttle cable is now working correctly. So I'll show you that. My dad and I tag teamed that to get that to work, because it was a pain in the butt. We pulled the seat out, and then I was crawled up behind the dash and trying to wriggle with 2 fingers that you can use up there. So got that taken care of, and I'll show you what we used. We'll try this again, and I'll show you the throttle cable. The GoPro died, and I had to yank the battery and do a reset on it. Anyway, here is the original cable that came out. It's got this long, goofy looking thing on it for the throttle body and the original car. And it goes through the firewall. There was a really pain in the ass clip that was on here. It looked kind of like an E-clip, a little different. And then this green thing goes in the top of the pedal and holds it in there. So that's the old cable that we no longer need anymore. And I would have recorded some of this, but oh my god, it was impossible to get up in there with just a few fingers trying to wrestle everything in place. So my dad spotted this universal make your own throttle kit at Advance Auto. It was hanging on a wall, and all it is a sheath, and you cut the cable down to length, and this here is a little set screw that pinches the cable, and then this picks up with a little clip here, a little through clip, and you bend the little leggies over. So this has some adjustment, and then what I ended up doing is taking this original bracket, I cut this off, moved this whole thing over about a 1/2 inch so that the cable is in a straight line. So re-welded that all back up, painted it, put it back in. I was in the car and then Dad was out here. I pulled this cable back through, cut the sheath down to the right size after mounting it to the firewall. And then there's a little sleeve, collar sleeve, that slips up through here into this clip. And then this comes down, and then you just take your gas pedal closed, gas pedal wide open, figure out where this needs to be, and clamp that down. And right now it's perfect. Gas pedal's all the way up right now. There's no flop in it, and it's perfect right here on the throttle blade. All the way open, it doesn't get anywhere near. It's perfect. So that ended up working out really well. So the only things left yet, the power steering rack that I really don't want to do is, I believe, being delivered Monday, tomorrow. So I need to pull out this rack because the threads are stripped in the pressure line, and I need to then swap these fittings, hope that the new rack, when I pull the old steel fittings out of the new rack, it shouldn't cause any issues. And then I can thread these new fittings with the O-rings down in and make them nice and snug. So there's that, and I need to do the brake lines yet in the front since they were cut, so it looks like I just need to do the fronts. I need to fix that brake fitting over there and put the booster back on, or the master cylinder, and yeah, you can see right here is where the lines are cut. Need to take care of them yet, and then I need to just go over everything and make sure all the bolts are tight, because I'm running into a lot of loose bolts, which he said I would, so that's expected. He also wants to run 2.5 inch Flowmaster exhaust, I believe is what he's gonna end up going with. So he's gonna bring me an H or an X pipe and some tailpipes, and then I just have to make little S bends off these 3-inch collectors. I'll put some V bands or something on them and get it into an H pipe. But that should be nice and easy because the H pipe is made to fit this stamp of the floor, and I still need to rewrap these wires too. So there's some odds and ends left in the steering rack, brakes, master cylinder, and the trans linkage. That's the next one to hurdle. So first was this throttle linkage, next will be trans linkage. Once we have it's able to shift, and I can get the brakes done and everything bled, then it can go down and we can see how it runs. So I think I'll wrap that up. I probably have a long enough video at this point to post, so I'll wrap everything up into one package and send it on its way, and then I will talk to you guys next time I have some stuff done. Have a good one.